Alright guys, today we are going to be talking about some Pokemon market and Pokemon investing, but with a twist. That's right, we're going to do something a little bit different, and it's for the good, guys. This is some really good information that you should be looking at, especially when you're trying to make decisions about the future of Pokemon. And today, I'm going to bring that up to you guys. It's been something I've been sitting on, and I've been doing a lot of time going back and looking at old e-forums, looking at old forums on PokeBeach and all these other sites that really have some good insight for where we could be going in the Pokemon market in the future. So guys, if you're new here, hit that subscribe, hit that notify, and as always, hit that like button. We can get 85 likes in this video. Greatly appreciated. Helps out a ton. And of course, it's free for you. So be sure you hit that like and subscribe before you leave. Today, we are going to be doing some Pokemon market and investing, but we're going to be doing it with a little bit of a twist as we are going to go back in time. I know, like the title below me says, is Pokemon investing a new thing? That's something that we've been discussing quite a bit. It only came up started in 2016 and became popular 2019 and 20. That's what a lot of people say. Now, I can tell you from personal experience that we were doing investment back in 1999 all the way until 2006. It's not a new concept that investing in Pokemon has been there. Anytime a collectible starts up, there's investing. And the one thing that I think people forget is that the exposure to these things was very bit more difficult back in the day. I've had this conversation in partial, but definitely something I really want to elaborate on. And as I was going back through some old forums, I found some really good forums from back in the day that really show what their thought process was on the market and investing and where it actually went 9.5, 10 years down the road. So definitely something that will be a fantastic read. It's really interesting to see the parallelisms that we are seeing from when this forum was written to what we are seeing today. And that's why I really wanted to cover it is that if you understand the past of some of these things, it gives you a really good ability to move into the future to see where it could be going. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the desktop screen. All right, so here we go. Now that we're back here on the screen, I brought this up here, and this one is from PokeBeach. I thought that this was a really good forum, so right here on PokeBeach. Of course, the link will be, as I said, down below in the description, so you can get to this very quickly. There's also another one that I'm actually going to put down there, which is a different style, talking about investing back in 2006. The parallels aren't quite as good. The reason being, of course, the parallels that are involved inside of back then is just Pokemon was really in its infancy stage still. It was growing. It was becoming more of a hobby. Gold stars were just coming out, and we were just about to go into the beginning of the Diamond and Pearl era right there. And so it wasn't quite the same aspect, but I still put it there because it's good information. Once again, it's good reference to look back in time and see how the Pokemon performed back then. And of course, this right here is in January of 2013, 9.5 years ago. And the title is The Pokemon Market 10 Years From Now. Save your boxes and ultra rares with a question mark. Now, I'm going to skip the beginning. If you want to hit the spoiler and go into that, of course, you can go ahead and read his story about his Pokemon cards. I already did, but it's not something that's really referenced to what's going on here. But what is actually beginning the forum is anyways, the point of this thread is, what do you think? Do you think 10 years from now, the set Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black and White Next Destinies will be extremely valuable? When it's out of print and all the boxes in the world are getting opened, think Next Destinies could be the Unforeseen Forces box of 2024. Should we all be holding on to some of these puppies in case we can make a small fortune a decade from now? Or will Pokemon at that point will be done and outcast by some other franchise? Now, as you can see, it's a question that we always have, and it's a question that we continue to have now, is when we look at investment and we're trying to make decisions on whether it's time to invest or a good investment in these hobbies, is are they going to be there 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And that's always something that's very difficult to predict sometimes, but based on the stability of the company, the size of the company, how spread out it is, how well it's performing, how the overview of it is by the people that are involved into it, you can just make a pretty good assessment that something like Pokemon is going to be here 10 years down the road. Is Magic going to be here 10 years down the road? More than likely. And you can make these assessments by that based on the actual set. So it's a good question to have when you're talking about investing in any kind of collectible or hobby that's active now. Is will it continue to be active and continue to grow? Because that growth is what really makes it so that the hobby can do well, your investments can grow, and your actual market will continue to fluctuate and have movement in it. If it stagnates and doesn't grow, or the main company goes bankrupt, there's a chance that everything in those collectibles markets may drop down to nothing. And the other problem you have is you don't have the next generation coming into it because it's gone, filling that gap and bringing more blood into it to bring more buyers, more people interested in the older products. So it's a very good question. It's something that we consider quite a bit today, and I'm sure you've heard that on a lot of channels when we discuss about the market and the investability of Pokemon TCG. I'm going to skip this one. If you want to read that, you can. Next one here is, with inflation, what are you really making? Pokemon TCG is much more popular now than it was when it originated, and there are more likely more boxes being made than before. Another conversation, another one of the parallels that we hear all the time in Sword and Shield, right? How many times do you hear when investment channels are talking about it, or people are saying that it's not investable? We'll actually put out there, like this person did back then, that more product is being made than ever. More packs are being made than ever. 9.1 billion Pokemon cards were made. It's a conversation we've had a ton, right? It's just one of those things that people really like to point out. And of course, here it is being discussed 9.5 years ago. Pokemon continued to grew. It got bigger. It got more people into it. They produced more product naturally for the people that are in it. And then people already make the assumption that the amount of product being made is not going to be eaten up by the market and that it's not going to gain value. It's always a concern. It's always something we discuss. And of course, right here, 10 years ago, that's exactly what we were looking at, or these people were looking at in this market. Let's see, we can go all the way down here now. You can go through this one here where it says right now there is no end in sight for Pokemon. I believe that's still the case today, and I don't see why it would be in 10 years. The game is doing extremely well right now, and there is no reason to think that the franchise will suddenly lose all of its avid fans and fail to get new people into its spell. Will there be a 5th generation of Pokemon, and will the show keep going? He laughed even harder and said, of course, Pokemon will continue for many generations to come, and as he made it sound, probably forever. There's a good source here if you want to click on that source link to see the full conversation that comes from. Great little conversation that they had back, and I believe that was actually in EX era when that conversation took place, and then this was done. Of course, we were already up into the 6th generation. So definitely one of them good conversation source pieces to actually look at. I'm going to skip this. Once again, this gentleman comes back. Also, it is important to consider your financial situation, which is a huge thing that we point out every single time we talk about investing in the Pokemon TCG, right? Your financial situation is the paramount of everything that you're doing. If your situation is not good, do not be buying Pokemon cards. Pay off your bills, pay off your credit cards, get rid of those debts that are not good, and before you spend any of your money into this. It should be expendable money. Expendable money in your financial situation is the safest way in the Pokemon TCG, just as it's going to be here. When I was 10, I got $100 for my birthday from my parents and grandparents combined each year. I could only afford one booster box a year. Now, being 16 and holding a part-time job, it isn't as big of a deal. In 10 years, will you need the money as much as you do now? And that's the question you should be asking yourself. In that 10-year time span, you're going to be holding your money for 10 years. Do you need that money, or do you see yourself needing that money in that 10-year time span? If the answer is no, if it's expendable, and if you would have spent it on something else and it doesn't make a difference if it sits on a shelf for 10 years, go for it. It's a great opportunity to just kind of sit and wait and see what happens. More than likely, you're just going to break even, worst case scenario at the end of it, which sucks. But at least you can actually get something out of it or get back what you put into it. Or you can open it if you don't feel that you're going to make any money on it and use it as an expendable that you did before. Open it and have fun with the cards. Once again, great opportunities just to enjoy the past 10 years in the future. We can go on here. Next one. What? Are you serious about this? Pokemon is not even as close to popular as it was when it first came out. Ask anybody who played back in the 90s. Literally almost every kid in the Pokemon had Pokemon cards. There is a reason that Neo Bulk is worthless less than black and white. There is so much of it. I don't see Pokemon ever being as popular as it was at first. Pokemon was one of the biggest fads for kids ever. Partially I agree with that, partially I don't. I think the biggest thing is when Pokemon first came out in 1999 in the United States, people didn't understand how to play the game, and they really weren't playing the game, right? They were actually just having fun pulling cards. I mean, we were playing the game not like we were supposed to in a playground a lot of times. A lot of kids were just throwing cards around and, oh, I got Charizard with the biggest number. It wins. And that's the biggest thing is that's something that's evolved, and I didn't see that even as much this time. I saw kids with random Pokemon cards, but they weren't throwing them at each other at the thing. I think a lot of parents my age were having our kids protect them. We weren't allowing them to go and just throw these cards around, especially the high-end valued ones like the ultra rares, the rainbow rares, the gold cards. We had them protect them, and they have an understanding of protecting these cards versus what we saw with everybody having cards all over the place just throwing them around. So I partially agree with this. I think 90s was more spread out, more kids were doing it, but I think now, even today, more kids are protecting and understanding from us how to hold on to their investments and do the right things for them longevity wise. I agree with and there was this comment back here that the competitive aspect has grown, and today the competitive aspect is the biggest it's ever been. So, I can keep going down through a bunch of these, but realistically it's unnecessary. Once again, I'll put the link below where you can get to this. I'll put the other one down below from 2006. So there's some great reading material to see the parallels of what we were discussing or what we've seen from now to then to even further back, and see, 10 years ago, has Pokemon's concepts really changed very much? I would say no. The gameplay, the tournament play, the way it's persistent is pretty much consistent, but this here is a great opportunity to see that and see how it hasn't changed. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the full screen. There'll also be another link down below that's just a different one where they're talking about investing in 2006. Not as detailed or as many parallelisms, because you got to remember, Pokemon at that point was really still in its infancy stage. You're just getting into the 4th generation at that point, and 3rd and 4th generation right there. And of course, we weren't having as much investment talk just because there wasn't as many people in it, right? If there's not as many people into the hobby, it's not as pertained to. It was there. We didn't have as much internet access. That we were doing more by phones or by people you knew. Nowadays, with the full spectrum of everything that's available for the internet to be able to communicate with forums, with Discord, with all the Facebook medias, social medias, everything that's evolved out there, people hear about it more. And that's the biggest thing that you need to consider when you're talking about these things in the Pokemon TCG, is more and more people are hearing about it. Thus, you're getting more spotlight on it, which is good. It grows that aspect of the hobby. You know that it's there. You know it's opportunities. You know that these things are available. But once again, the past can really show you where we are today. The concerns we have today were concerns that were back then 10 years ago. And we worked through those problems, and we continue to grow and become a bigger and better hobby, which is fantastic for us. It means we're still going in the right direction. Once again, do you foresee Pokemon market and the Pokemon investing and Pokemon in general being gone in 10 years? And personally, I do not. I don't see any reason that the Pokemon TCG would fold and be gone in the next 10 to 15 years. I think I think most of us would agree that that's a pretty safe bet. But it's definitely one of those things that you need to consider. And even 10 years ago, that's exactly what they were considering when they were actually moving forwards. And I hope some of these people did do exactly what they were talking about in this investment forum. Because if they did, they might have gotten some really good returns just 9 years down the road from when they made their initial discussion on this investment. So it'd be kind of cool to sit there and see if some of these people are still active and are actually on here, if they went through with it, and how well they performed all the way up until that point. And then, of course, what happened at the boom. So I might do that. That might be a little bit fun of another one of those fun little discussions that we could have afterwards of what some of these individuals say, what they did, and how that turned out for them. So other than that, guys, hopefully this is some good information. Hopefully this is some fun, a little bit of a twist on using past information, past forums to make decisions or have good conversation pieces to look back on to see where the Pokemon TCG may be going. Of course, the past is always a good indicator of where the future is going. Normally, things don't change that much in Pokemon TCG. Thought processes don't change much. The tournament play doesn't change much. So we can use these past references to make better informed decisions on the Pokemon market and Pokemon investing. So other than that, if I did bring you some good information, once again, guys, hit that subscribe, hit that notify, and as always, hit that like button, guys. We can get 85 likes on this video. It's greatly appreciated as always. And be sure that you check out these 2 videos over here. I will put them up for your entertainment afterwards and your information. And we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.